The case of a woman who was brutally attacked and then burned has shocked public opinion and the media in the Czech Republic. The charred body of the woman was left in plain sight, with no attempt by the perpetrator to conceal it. He abandoned the body on a road in a forested area not far from the crime scene. After the media revealed the perpetrator's identity, many were stunned to learn about his relationship with the victim. In particular, the killer's method horrified the public. Moreover, this was not the first time he had committed a crime. Many acquaintances thought the man had been deterred by legal consequences for his past offenses, but he continued his criminal behavior. However, what enraged the public most was the initial sentence given to this repeat offender. Shockingly, his sentence was even reduced. Why did the court show leniency toward a habitual criminal? Could it be related to his claim in court that he was manipulated by the police? All the details will be revealed shortly. But first, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications to ensure you don't miss any of our captivating videos. After receiving a tip from a citizen, police immediately arrived at a remote forest road far from the city center. Upon arrival, they discovered the charred body of a woman. After examining the area where the woman's body was found and analyzing the traces left on her abdomen, police suspected that she had been brutally assaulted before being burned. Forensic experts conducted blood sample tests and quickly identified the victim. She was a 49-year-old woman who had no known disputes with those around her. A neighbor stated that while the victim was not often home, she was not someone who avoided interacting with those in her community. After confirming that the victim had good relationships with neighbors, family, and friends, police shifted their investigation to a man considered to be her lover. Based on witness statements, police learned that the victim had a complicated relationship with a man 9 years older than her, named Karel Kalina. Further investigation into Karel Kalina's background led police to suspect his involvement in the woman's death. Karel Kalina had a criminal record involving women and had even served 12 years in prison. Therefore, the police's suspicions were well-founded. Initially, when questioned by police, Karel Kalina remained calm and insisted he had no connection to the 49-year-old woman's death. However, after police presented evidence showing he had driven to the location where the body was found, he ultimately confessed. Under intense questioning, Karel Kalina admitted to using a stick and his hands to assault various parts of the victim's body, including her chest and head. He even confessed to kicking his lover and using his hands to strangle her, causing her to suffocate and lose consciousness. The incident occurred at a house in the town of Jirikov. After his lover lost consciousness, Karel Kalina transported her to a forest in Rumburg. Initially, he intended to bury her, but fearing the smell of decomposition might expose him, he decided to pour gasoline on her and set her on fire. According to the autopsy, the victim died from suffocation caused by inhaling smoke, meaning Karel Kalina set her on fire while she was still breathing. The killer's cold demeanor during questioning shocked investigators. Even when shown photos of the victim's charred body, he displayed no emotion. The police believed that the woman endured immense suffering before her death. However, many questioned why she chose to stay with such a morally reprehensible man. Upon investigating those who knew about Karel Kalina's relationship with the victim, the police were surprised to learn that the victim genuinely loved him. Despite Karel Kalina's repeated use of violence, the woman continued to forgive him because he begged for her forgiveness after each incident. Karel Kalina frequently struck various parts of the woman's body, with her chest and head being the most affected areas. Although friends advised the woman to leave Karel Kalina, citing his violent tendencies and the immorality of interfering in another family's happiness. She forgave him, believing he would change. According to information released by the police to the media, after the victim lost consciousness, Karel Kalina placed her body in his car and drove to a remote forest road. Burning the body took significant time, and fearing someone might accidentally pass by and discover the scene, he left once he confirmed she had died. Karel Kalina admitted knowing the victim and her husband for several years. As the couple grew distant, he began to approach her, and their relationship turned romantic. Karel Kalina also deceived his wife and 2 children for a long time. However, his family had little regard for him due to the disgrace his past crimes brought upon them. During his testimony, Karel Kalina revealed that the victim had spent several hours with him before the incident occurred. That day, they were on a date. The woman could not have imagined it would be the last time she saw Karel Kalina. In a moment of lost control, he killed her. Media and public opinion in the Czech Republic expect the murderer to face severe legal punishment due to his brutal actions and repeated offenses. However, after the first trial, many expressed outrage at the sentence the court imposed on Karel Kalina. What happened? Karel Kalina was the father of 2 daughters. He had previously committed murder and behaved inappropriately toward a woman, for which he served 12 years in prison. After a few years, Karel Kalina was pardoned and required to attend educational programs for offenders with inappropriate behavior toward women. His family hoped that he would recognize his mistakes and become a better person to atone for his past. However, he did not change. Shortly after, Karel Kalina was accused of violence against 2 other women. At the time, he claimed his actions were provoked by their behavior, which he said affected his daughter's mental well-being. Although he offered an explanation, Karel Kalina was penalized. Although he did not go to prison, the case destroyed his family's reputation. Unrelenting, Karel Kalina was once again identified as the perpetrator in the murder of the 49-year-old woman. In court, Karel Kalina altered his initial statement to the police, denying some of his previous claims and providing explanations for his actions. He also revealed irregularities during the police investigation, claiming he was wrongfully accused. In the courtroom, Karel Kalina declared his innocence. He alleged that the police had edited and manipulated his testimony. Karel Kalina insisted he was coerced and repeatedly told the court that he had done nothing wrong, asserting he could prove his innocence. When the judge asked why the police would manipulate his testimony and how he would explain the discrepancies between his claims and their evidence, Karel Kalina replied that the judge should ask the police that question. Karel Kalina admitted that the victim visited him that evening, but he denied using fire to destroy evidence on the forest road. According to Karel Kalina's testimony in court, the woman had left him safely after they spent a romantic evening together. He insisted that he did not commit the crime and requested an acquittal. Karel Kalina also explained why he took blood-stained items belonging to the victim, including a sofa and carpet, to a scrapyard the day after the incident. He claimed that he did so because he was preparing to sell his house and wanted to dispose of unnecessary items. Kalina stated that he had previously discussed selling the house with a real estate agent. He further explained that the injuries on his body were caused while working with wood. However, forensic experts refuted this, stating the injuries were not consistent with wood-related accidents. Karel Kalina continued to counter the accusations, asserting that the police prosecuted him illegally based on fabricated evidence. He testified that he voluntarily went to the police station to explain himself, but they detained him and subjected him to immense pressure. Karel Kalina repeatedly claimed that mobile phone data indicated the victim had met another man in her backyard at 1 a.m. However, the Supreme Court dismissed this argument. Karel Kalina faced the possibility of a life sentence if his actions were deemed exceptionally heinous, motivated by particularly reprehensible reasons, or caused irreversible, severe consequences. However, the court determined that none of these factors applied to Karel Kalina's case. Regarding his motive, the court could not conclusively establish its nature. The Regional Court of St. Nad Labem found no particularly reprehensible method in Kalina's actions, and the prosecutor lacked evidence to prove their assumption of extreme brutality. As a result, the court focused on the findings from the autopsy of the victim's charred body. Since the injuries indicated prolonged physical abuse, the court relied on this to issue its judgment. Ultimately, after the first trial, the court sentenced Karel Kalina to 28 years in prison instead of a life sentence, as many had expected. Furthermore, the court reduced the initial sentence and partially upheld Kalina's appeal. According to the verdict, Karel Kalina poured gasoline on the woman while she was still alive and set her on fire. With no direct evidence against him, his conviction was based on a series of circumstantial evidence. The victim's family and those present in the courtroom were furious with the court's decision. Many believed that Karel Kalina should have received a life sentence. However, not only did the public oppose the verdict, but the defendant also appealed. Karel Kalina argued that he did not deserve the 28-year sentence. After allowing time for additional evidence collection, the second trial of Karel Kalina commenced. Judge Vladimira Kodatova stated that the victim had endured tremendous suffering before her death, and the defendant's barbaric actions spanned a prolonged period. The indictment accused Karel Kalina of brutally assaulting his girlfriend on February 4 at a house in the town of Jirikov. He inflicted numerous injuries, and various parts of her body were bruised. Notably, the judge also revisited Kalina's previous convictions as a basis for determining the final sentence. In 2000, Karel Kalina was sentenced to 12 years in prison for the attempted murder of another individual and inappropriate behavior toward a woman. He had also previously faced trial for assaulting 2 other women by strangling them. Judge Vladimira Kodatova ordered the defendant to pay over 3 million CZK to the victim's family as compensation for emotional damages. During the trial, Judge Kodatova asked Kalina how many more women's lives he believed he needed to endanger before receiving a life sentence. Finally, the judge stated that she had no choice but to impose a life sentence on the defendant, as any shorter sentence would alarm society due to the risk of him attacking another victim in the future. According to Judge Vladimira Kodatova, the victim endured immense suffering. While her relationship with the defendant was morally questionable, it had no bearing on the court's judgment. Examining the injuries the victim inflicted on Karel Kalina in self-defense, it is evident that she was aware her life was in danger. The judge also noted that Karel Kalina not only terrified many people through his repeated crimes, but also negatively impacted the lives of his family and children. Furthermore, the court found no mitigating circumstances. The defendant showed no remorse, did not apologize to the victim's family, and disregarded those he had previously harmed through violence. Karel Kalina had been diagnosed with paraphilia in the past. According to Judge Kodatova, he underwent both inpatient and outpatient treatment, but his criminal behavior persisted. The court opined that Karel Kalina should serve his sentence in a maximum security prison. However, under Czech law, a life sentence can be commuted if the president grants a pardon. Ultimately, Judge Vladimira Kodatova revoked the initial 28-year sentence and sentenced Karel Kalina to life imprisonment. The prosecutor was satisfied with the court's decision, while defense lawyer Katarina Kopeka reiterated that Kalina continued to deny his guilt and disagreed with the sentence. She immediately filed an appeal on his behalf. The victim's family requested 20 million CZK in compensation, but the court maintained the penalty at 3 million CZK. The remaining compensation claims were referred to civil litigation proceedings. The victim's family left the courtroom in tears. They once considered Karel Kalina a close friend, but never imagined he would commit such horrific and heinous acts behind their backs. Life imprisonment is the harshest penalty in the Czech legal system. In most cases, it is applied to particularly brutal and repeated murders. Additionally, life sentences are used for crimes that pose significant public threats, terrorism, or genocide. In 2023 alone, 3 men were sentenced to life imprisonment in the Czech Republic. The Prague Supreme Court received an appeal from Karel Kalina. After deliberation, it decided to reject the appeal and upheld the life sentence. Many expressed satisfaction with the final verdict for Karel Kalina. However, some argued that the Czech Republic should consider reinstating the death penalty, as other nations do, to ensure brutal offenders receive appropriate punishment. After Karel Kalina's sentencing, many questioned when the current criminal code might be revised to prevent repeat offenses by criminals. To eliminate such crimes entirely, some suggested that certain acts, such as physical violence or murder, should be punished without leniency by life imprisonment without the possibility of pardon. Others argued that the death penalty should be reinstated, given the increasing severity of crimes in the Czech Republic. A lawyer commented that investigators are often overwhelmed by cases like Karel Kalina's. Forensic experts and psychiatric specialists, in particular, face immense pressure. A striking detail in the investigation of Karel Kalina's case was his claim that he was manipulated by the police. However, instead of thoroughly examining the situation to provide clarity, the court immediately dismissed Kalina's claim, leading some to express doubt. Some suggested that the police may have pressured Karel Kalina to swiftly close the case, arguing that the court should review potential issues in the investigation. Others countered that regardless of any police pressure, one undeniable fact remains: Karel Kalina committed brutal acts against his lover. They asserted that Kalina's life sentence was entirely appropriate. Although he might eventually be eligible for a pardon, his prior convictions ensure he will remain imprisoned for a long time. What do you think about the sentence given to Karel Kalina? Should the Czech Republic consider reinstating the death penalty? This concludes the case that has stirred public and media attention in the Czech Republic, which we wanted to share with you. Thank you for listening to today's case story. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications to catch more gripping cases on our channel. Please leave your thoughts and feedback in the comments, as it helps us create better videos. Thank you, and see you in the next one.